Right now, in more than one statehouse in this country, there are laws on the books and bills moving that point toward a day when it could be effectively illegal to drive an older car like the ones sitting in a lot of your garages. Not because the car's unsafe, not because it failed an inspection, but because of a piece of hardware the law would tie your driving to. And if your car's too old to take that hardware, the rule quietly leaves you with a choice between not driving it and breaking the law. It's sold to you as saving lives. I'm going to show you what it actually is, how it works, who gets paid, and what it could cost you out of your own pocket. And then I'm going to be straight with you about the parts that are already real versus the parts that are still just proposals. Because I'm not here to scare you with something that hasn't happened. I'm here so you see it coming. Let me tell you what this technology is first, because the name they gave it is designed to sound friendly. It's called Intelligent Speed Assistance, ISA for short. And here's what it does. It's a system that knows the speed limit of the road you're on, using GPS and a map database, and it can stop your car from going faster than that limit. The gentle version just beeps at you and buzzes the pedal. The hard version, the one these laws are interested in, physically holds your car back so it cannot exceed the limit, period. Your foot goes to the floor and the car just says no. Now, this is not science fiction, and this is the part I want you to hear clearly because it's the true part. Over in Europe, ISA is already the law. As of the summer of 2024, every single new car sold in the European Union has to come with an intelligent speed assistance system built in. That already happened. It's on the road right now, across a whole continent. So when somebody tells you this technology is a long way off, no, it isn't. The manufacturers already build it. It's already in millions of cars overseas. The only question left in this country is who gets it and whether they get to choose. Now, to be fair about the European version, because fair is the whole point here, the one they mandated over there is mostly the softer kind. It warns you, a chime, a symbol on the dash, a little pushback in the pedal. And in most of those cars, the driver can still override it and switch it off for the drive. It's a nag, not a straitjacket. But here's the thing about a system that's already bolted into every new car on a continent. Turning the nag into a hard limit, or making the off switch go away, is a software decision, not a hardware one. The hard part, getting the box into the car, is already done. That's why what starts as a gentle warning system is worth watching, because the equipment to make it absolute is already sitting right there in the dash. And here's where it comes home. In the United States, the way this is showing up is as a punishment tool for people the courts decide are dangerous drivers. The idea is you rack up serious speeding, reckless driving, or a couple of big violations, and instead of just yanking your license, a judge can order a speed limiter installed on your car as a condition of you keeping the right to drive at all. Virginia became the first state in the country to put a law like that on the books. It passed in 2025 and went into effect the summer of 2026. And Virginia isn't alone. Washington State passed its own version, signed into law in 2025, though it doesn't kick in for a few more years. Maryland moved on it too. And a whole line of other states, New York, Pennsylvania, and more, have had bills just like it introduced. A couple of states, California and Georgia among them, actually passed versions that their governors turned around and vetoed, so this isn't a done deal marching in one direction. Some of it's been beaten back. But make no mistake, it's started, it's real, a couple of states have already signed it, and it is not going away. So let me walk through the concern the way an honest mechanic would, and I'll flag what's solid and what's my read. These devices need to tie into the car's electronics to do their job, to read your speed and to hold the throttle back. And the way that's typically done on a modern car is through its diagnostic and engine management systems, most likely that same OBD port under the dash I keep talking about. And here's the thing about that. The standardized diagnostic system these rely on only exists on cars built from about 1996 on. That's when it was made mandatory on new cars in this country. A pre-1996 vehicle, a real classic, a vintage truck, an old motorhome, often has a purely mechanical throttle and no electronic engine brain for a device like this to talk to at all. There simply isn't anything for it to grab onto. It's not that somebody banned the old truck, it's that the old truck can't physically host the equipment the newer rules are built around. Now sit with what that means if one of these mandate programs ever applied broadly. If the law says you may only drive a vehicle that has the speed limiter installed, and your old truck physically cannot take the limiter, then the law has, without ever saying the words, made it illegal for you to drive your own old truck. Not by banning the truck, by requiring a device the truck can't accept. That's the effectively illegal part, and it's why folks who love old cars started paying attention. Now, I'll be honest with you. The laws on the books today are aimed at repeat serious offenders, not at every classic car owner in America. So this isn't happening to your neighbor's Chevelle tomorrow. But the mechanism, the shape of it, is exactly the kind of thing that starts narrow and gets widened, and that's worth watching with clear eyes. And if one of these orders lands on you, look at how much of your ordinary life it reaches. The limiter goes on the cars registered to you. So what about the rest? You generally can't just hop in a rental because a rental company's car isn't fitted with your device. You can't easily borrow a friend's car for an afternoon. If you drive for work, there's usually an exception you can apply for, but it comes with strings, approvals, paperwork, limits on hours. The point is, it doesn't just modify one car. It follows you, the driver, across every vehicle you might touch. That's a different thing than a ticket. A ticket costs you money. This one governs what you're allowed to sit behind the wheel of. Now let's follow the money, because my old man always told me when something doesn't smell right, follow the money. These devices, in the programs that use them, generally aren't something you buy once and own. You lease the hardware. You pay a monthly fee for the box itself. On top of that, there's usually a monitoring fee, money to the program to keep tabs on you. And you can't install it in your garage on a Saturday. It has to go in through an approved provider who charges you for the install. And these aren't made-up numbers. Look at Virginia's actual published program. About $100 to install, then roughly $130 a month to lease the device, plus about $50 a month in monitoring fees. Call it $180 a month per car on top of the install. That's north of $2,000 a year for one vehicle. And Virginia requires it in every vehicle you own or co-own. So a household with 2 or 3 cars is stacking that bill 2 or 3 times over. Now, other states set their fees lower, so I won't pretend $2,000 is the number everywhere. But Virginia's the real, on-the-books example, and it is not cheap. And if you want a preview of how that shakes out in practice, look at the ignition interlock programs we already run in this country. The breathalyzer boxes courts order for drunk driving convictions. Those work the same way. You don't buy the device, you lease it. You pay a monthly monitoring fee, and you pay an approved shop to install and service it. Folks in those programs routinely pay somewhere in the neighborhood of a couple $1,000s a year per car once you add it all up. A speed limiter mandate would run on that exact same playbook. The machinery for billing you monthly to be monitored in your own vehicle already exists. They wouldn't have to invent a thing. I'm not going to hand you one exact national number because it varies and anyone who quotes you a precise figure is guessing. But the direction is clear. It is not cheap, and every one of those dollars flows to whoever holds the contract. And here's a piece worth understanding, whatever you think about speeding. This is not a wide-open market with a dozen companies competing for your business. Like the breathalyzer programs, the state certifies a short list of approved providers, and right now the market's so new that in a place like Virginia, it comes down to essentially one authorized company. Now, I want to be fair and accurate here because I'm not going to sell you a villain that isn't real. These laws are mostly being pushed by highway safety groups and by families who lost somebody to a speeder. That's who's actually testifying for them, and I'm not going to sit here and mock a grieving parent. That part is genuine. My concern isn't the motive, it's the structure. A mandate that channels every affected driver into a tiny, state-blessed set of vendors at a fixed monthly rate with no real price competition to hold it down. You can believe those families are right about the danger and still think a captive monthly fee program is a clumsy, expensive way to answer it. Now let me be the honest man in the room, because that's the whole reason you'd listen to me over the fellas who just want you scared. I am not out here telling you to go drive like a maniac. If you want to go fast, take it to a track. I've built cars that'll do it. Speeding on a public road gets people killed, and nobody sensible argues otherwise. And I'm not going to tell you every one of these laws is some grand plot, because some of the people pushing them genuinely just want fewer folks dying on the road, and that's a good thing to want. So take the fever out of it. The real problem here isn't the goal, it's the method. Mandating always-on tracking hardware, tying it to a tiny set of paid providers, and writing it in a way that quietly shuts old cars and the people who can only afford old cars out of the picture. You can be all the way in favor of road safety and still think that's the wrong way to get there. So what do you actually do about it? This one isn't a fuse you pull or a module you unplug. It's slower and it's more boring than that, and it matters more. You pay attention to what's moving in your own state legislature. These bills have names, they get committee hearings, and they pass while nobody's looking precisely because they're dull. You call or write your state representative, the people whose job depends on your vote, and you tell them plainly that you support safer roads, but not a mandate that forces tracking hardware into cars and prices old car owners off the street. You show up, and you talk about it. You send a video like this to the fella down the street with the old truck, because the single biggest advantage these bills have is that they pass in the quiet, before most people even know the words intelligent speed assistance mean a box that can decide how fast your car is allowed to go. Boring, unglamorous civic work is the only thing that's ever actually turned one of these around, and it works far more often than people believe because almost nobody bothers to do it. The lobbyist who wrote the bill is counting on you staying home. Don't. Because here's the bottom line, after 40 years around these machines. For 100 years, the deal was simple. You buy a car, you follow the traffic laws, and the car is yours to drive. What's changing, slowly in pieces, one bill at a time, is that last part. The idea that the car answers to you. First, it was a box that reports where you go. Now it's talk of a box that decides how fast you're allowed to go and whether you're allowed to drive at all. I'm not telling you the sky is falling. I'm telling you which direction it's leaning so that when a bill like this shows up in your state, you already know what it is and you're not hearing about it for the first time on the day it passes. I'm Hank. About 40 years turning wrenches, the last stretch on a dealer floor, and no lawmaker, no lobbyist, no device company pays me a nickel, which is exactly why I'll lay it out straight, the real parts and the maybe parts both. So tell me down in the comments, would you accept a speed limiter in your car to keep your license, or is that a line you won't cross? And tell me what you drive and what state you're in, because the next fella reading wants to know if this is moving where he lives. Watch out for each other.